Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. And if that is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? Today I have had a look at another new-ish archetype because I didn't get to before, and someone requested for me also to look into pure Therions, I think, if I got that right. And this is my take on pure Therions. Let's just stick with one of those two. This deck can be somewhat explosive, like it's not awful, and for a budget variant, it is actually somewhat strong, and especially for a weirdly, well, I want to say pure, but it's kind of danger Therion in the end. It's not really too bad. I thought this would be more of an engine, in which it is, which there will be a few more videos, this mixed with some other stuff, so be ready for that one as well. But a pure variant actually works quite well, and it works somewhat well, at least on budget. Of course, there will be times where you break, because this is like a bit like a ritual deck or like a monarch deck. You will have to have a certain setup for the place to work. You need a Therion in hand, you need one in graveyard, and that is basically it. And you kind of want specific ones because they do specific things, and I'll be talking about which ones those are and how you can technically make it so you get into them a bit more often. So starting off, we run the Ash Blossom, Forbidden Droplet, and Infinite Impermanence package. These cards you basically get for free, so I don't really count them in here. But if you don't have them, or if you don't have any of them, or if you don't want to play them, you could technically go for like triple Lost Wind. There's some stuff that works. This is mainly go first variant, but obviously it can go second. It's not terrible at going second either, so you can switch in cards depending on what you want the deck to do, and then go from there. I want this to be more of a go first variant. That's why I put in Lost Wind, because this card, at least if it's sent to the graveyard, which will happen a lot in this deck, you can at least reuse it. So I felt like this card had some value. There's still like the Titanocider or something. If you have that card, you could also play this and set it back all the time, which fits quite well with the whole Therion endless engine kind of thing. So there's that as well. So if you do want to run these cards, do so. If not, then it's not too bad. Like, they're not key essential, whatever. You know how good Ash Blossom is, but anything else, it does stuff, but it's not like you can't play other cards. The engine of the deck is harmed by that, of course. First thing that is part of the engine is Planet Pathfinder. There was a reason why this card was in the pack, and the reason is this card can obviously search your field spell and also provide a material for Regulus, which it's not as good as it sounds, because yes, you can summon it then without having a Therion in your graveyard, but the problem is then for the negate you have to send itself to the graveyard, and then it is a negate. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a negate, but it's a mediocre one. Like, you don't have any field presence, anything, and usually when you have the field spell up, because it does stuff during battle, you kind of want to keep it on. Some opponents won't deal with this. They'd think like, oh yeah, they got their search off, I can deal with the battle phase effect, and yeah, they couldn't be more wrong. It's really annoying, and it's actually what makes this deck quite grindy. If you can keep your field spell up, that is usually something very nice. So you see, this is basically our only normal summon. What you can be playing is Lone Fire Blossom, because it somewhat around does the same thing, because this card gets you this card out, and this card you can first of all, you can summon it, but that's not the point. You can send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard, add one Therion spell trap from your deck to your hand, which can be your Discolosseum, which can be your draw engine, and so on. It can't be endless engine, our Argyro system, so that's a bit annoying. But yeah, this is a normal summon, but you could also round this off with 1, 2, 3 Lone Fire Blossoms. Technically, 3 Lone Fire Blossoms is roundabout as good as this, so you can decide whatever you want to be doing with that one. You can mix them, you can run like 2 of this, 3 of this. There's obviously run the cards that you have. Next up, we will, before we dive into the whole Therion package and what they do and what you can do with them, we run a danger package that has multiple reasons. First of all, sometimes having monsters on board as like either just blockers basically, or going into some link plays, although if you want to keep it budget, your link plays are very limited. What you could do is play one IP Masquerena, and this deck would be actually somewhat neat, and then go into Nightmare Unicorn after you've used your Therion at stuff, for example, but you run out of resources a bit quicker if you do this, so it's okay, but it's not amazing. But the discard on this one is the most important one, because you need Therions in your graveyard, and you can see we only run one engine system thingy, that dump stuff into the graveyard, so you have to find other ways. And that explains also why we run quite a big, well, package of Therion cards, basically because of the fact that you need some graveyard. You technically could even bump this up by 1 and like cut one of the Mothmans. If you feel like you still don't have enough and you still don't get enough in the graveyard, then bump this card up to 3 again, and yeah, you should be fine-ish. But it is what it is. We kind of do need this. You can run some rank 4s, for example. Baguska comes to mind because you do have Pathfinder, you do have Chupacabra, and you do have Mothman, so it can come up, but it's not the main play of the deck, so I didn't decide to include this one, but in the end you could well do so. Dogman, another one, I just try to vary them up. Obviously, if you can, you want to be playing the good ones. So Chinoko comes to mind, Nessie comes to mind, because first of all, they also do stuff, and they're Aqua and Reptile, which works with your Aqua and your Reptile, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is the Reptile one, which they're not key players in the deck, so it doesn't really matter. But if you have this danger engine, then I would definitely recommend you play that instead of stuff like Chupacabra, Dogman. Thunderbird is a bit of a different one because Thunderbird actually helps you with your rank 8 engine. That's why I ran 3 and haven't split them up a bit more, because this one has the discard effect, which lets you discard whatever you want, so this is good. And this one is just a level 8 monster, so you can rank 8 it, which I'll be talking about in a second. Mothman does some stuff going second, I guess, but obviously this card is it does work with level 7s, and you can go to rank 7s, but rank 7s, the normal rares, are terrible, so yeah, not much to do with that one. Then starting off finally with the Therion package, we run double Bull. This card is good going second. It's got a decent attack value as well. Well, for level 7 it's terrible, but you boost yourself with equipping Therion monsters. First of all, to the whole Therion thing, they all basically have the effect that you can target a Therion monster or one monster of their own type that's in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and then equip the other one as an equip spell, which is quite nice. But that's, you see, you need Therion monsters in your graveyard, so you can do this. And then they have another clause at the bottom. They all gain attack points basically when you equip them, like when they are an equip card. And it can activate the second effect, like not the summoning effect, but the actual effect. The equipped monster can also use it. So even if your Therion is in the graveyard, if you equip it, then you still get the effect of sometimes more or less. You can use both, because some stuff like Bloody Borea doesn't really care about your equipped monster, and you just send any card from your hand or field to the graveyard basically. But some cards need you to pop like a Therion card, and if you only have that equipped monster and the monster is equipped, like you will run out of resources eventually, and it's a bit annoying. But yeah, that's quite nice. But since this deck aims to go first, I decided to only put this card in at 2, because it just pops one card your opponent controls, and it's not a quick spell. If it was or a quick effect, then I would run this at 3, but since it's not, it's at 2. But if you decide to go for more second build, then put this up and maybe cut this down, then you should be fine. This one is the, well, it's good and it's not good. The attack value is awful, so it doesn't help with OTK. Like in a go second variant, like put this down to 1 or cut it completely, just in case if you have to go first, then you have another play. Because we do kind of rely on this card, annoyingly, because this is one of the other interactions. And if you get this out, it's an interaction. Like you take what you can get at this point, and you can bounce like one Therion card in your spell trap zone, which is annoying because, like I said, that means you can't really use the effect of that in the spell trap zone as well, then so it's a bit annoying, but yeah, it's still a bounce, so that's quite nice. And it's just one card. Technically you can bounce back field spells and whatnot, so if you really want. Not often, that's a good choice, but you could. Thunderbird, already talked about. We go in second. It's nice, pop in spell traps, because you don't really have that much spell trap removal, and also it is quite neat for your whole rank 8 package that you can, because now you will see we've got this card that's level 8, and this card basically does nothing. It gives your Therion monsters protection while you control an equip card, which is quite fun, but you don't run any psychics. This attack value isn't, it's not bad, and it's got decent defense, but it's mainly in here because it's level 8 and you can do stuff with that actually in comparison to the other stuff. Plus it cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. That is not super terrible, so it can be utilized. Usually you would cut this down if you have 3 of this, and so on, then you would cut this down a bit. Although you could be running trade-in this deck, because like you see, you run lots of level 8s. Even with Thunderbird you could use it, so 2 to 3 trade-ins can be helpful. At least like 1 is also fine. If you have 1, you'll see because we're on Performapal Popperup, this card is your, well, dig into your deck and also get stuff into the graveyard while taking shit tons of damage. It works, actually. It's not as terrible as it sounds, and for a budget version, this card actually does some stuff, so I would definitely leave it in, unless you have stuff that actually does stuff that's good, like Trade-In, for example. Or obviously triple this, triple that, and then keep going from there. Lily Borea, very good card because it basically does everything. It searches you a Therion spell trap, which is nice. It sends one card from your hand or field to the graveyard, which would then be a Therion. The only problem with this card is if you don't have a setup, then you're a bit screwed. Because you can't summon this card. That's where Lone Fire Blossom comes into play, because it already summons it, and then you can already use the effect and keep going from there, so that's quite good. So this is why even in a pure variant, not just a plant focus variant, Lone Fire Blossom is still a card that you would want to be playing if it wasn't a super rare. And yeah, you can also use the monsters that you summon, like the dangers, from your field and send them to the graveyard and then search. What you mainly want to be searching is either the field spell or Therion Cross. The rest is more grind gameish. Sometimes Charge can be helpful if you already have everything else. Sometimes Stand Up can be helpful, because that helps you equip stuff from your graveyard to other things and get stuff back from your graveyard. I wanted to play this at 2, but I kind of felt like I ran out of slots. It's not bad, because you will be sending stuff to the graveyard and can help you getting stuff back, but you do need a bit of setup, and if you draw into 2 of this card, then you basically do nothing. The good thing is you can send it to the graveyard with Charge, but yeah, you see it's not overwhelmingly great, but it is playable, I'd say. Another card that's quite nice, you could run it at 2, the card is strong, it's a negate. It has very, very good attack value, and it works very well in Earth Machine decks. This card is, yeah, it's good. Also level 8, by the way, just mentioning this for future purposes, because that might come up later again. And as any card or effect, it doesn't destroy, negate and destroy, but just negates. And it's also for spell and trap cards, so you can protect yourself a little bit, but you have to get rid of one Therion monster card from your hand or face up field. Hand is good because technically you can get stuff back to your hand with the engine, or even with your Discolosseum, so this card works quite well. We do want to be running one of this. It's not amazing, but it can help facilitate OTKs. It's a level 8, so that's quite nice, and it adds the Therion counter up. If you decide like this card isn't worth it, or you didn't pull it and you want to try the deck out without it, then just put one more bull in and cut this card for now. But it does some stuff. It's not bad, it does some stuff, but I haven't used it as much as any of the other ones. And one card that's again, if you didn't pull it, then try the deck without it and see if it works, because it usually would. But this card is kind of the heart and soul of the play style of pure Therions, because you can equip loads of cards from your graveyard in the end game. That's super good, because you can like use multiple effects, because they all can let you this card use their effects by equipping them, so that's nice. And if you discard one Endless Engine, a gyro system, which you can add back to your hand basically every turn, which is quite nice once you got it to the graveyard, which isn't super easy because you only run one of it, and only your field spell can send it if your monster would be destroyed by battle, so there's a bit of a problem with that. But technically in a grind game, if you draw into this card and your opponent has some stuff but they can't negate you, but you just need to clear their board, then this card is super good, because you can just summon it out, equip up to 3, it doesn't have to be 3, up to 3, and then you can discard one of this and destroy all cards your opponent controls, not just monsters, not spell traps, everything. And that is I would say that is worth it to run it at 1. If you don't have it, it's not gonna ruin the deck, but it does stuff, and I feel like the stuff that it does can be quite fun actually. Popperup, already explained that. Yes, it goes -1, but technically it gets stuff to the graveyard. Technically it can trigger, I think, the dangers as well, so there's that. Damages you a lot, but it is fine because it helps you dig for cards that you actually need, and you do need some stuff in the graveyard, so it's not bad. Try it out for a budget. Like if you're on a budget, you know, you have to make certain cuts and you have to be able to deal with certain effects not being as good as their possible higher rarity counterparts that you'd be running instead. Endless Engine at 1. The card is nice, but with all the discards and stuff, I feel like I needed this card the least, so I decided to put it down to 1. You definitely need it at 1 because it does stuff for the deck, but you can get along without it. You want to run it at 3, but it's okay. It's not terrible for an ultra rare. You can cut it down to 1 and the deck still works. I run triple Therion Charge. You technically would get away with running 2, but I just really like it. It digs further into your deck, it helps you find the stuff that you need, and you have so many Therion cards that there will be stuff that you can discard. So in the end, it's for me that was like an inclusion that was very self-explanatory, but obviously if you have more trade-ins, then you could cut this card down to 1 or 2 and run like more trade-ins and fill it up with the cards that you did pull or that you do have. Utilize your your tickets, your crafting material well, and don't just copy a specific list and craft these cards. If you can, substitute certain other ones to try out the deck at first. Discolosseum, also a card you obviously would want to be running at 3, but 2 is fine. You sometimes draw into it, you can search it with Pathfinder, you can search it with Lily Borea, so in the end you run like 8 copies of this card at least, which is good, but obviously not perfect. You would want to be running like 12, which you can with Lone Fire, everything, but sometimes you have to, well, budget wise, you know how it is. One cross is usually fine. You can technically recycle this card, search it again with the aggro system, because it puts it back on in your deck, so that works. And 1 stand up. For the extra deck, we have just generic rank 7 stuff, generic rank 8 stuff that usually doesn't come up. The one that comes up, the one that I did include, and it counts like as half a super rare, because some of you might have this because they open these free packs that you get for the tickets, and I think this card is in it, because yeah, I cannot dismantle it, so yeah, this is where I got it as well. And it's not perfect, because you have to keep in mind it is a mandatory negate. Like, you don't decide what it negates the next action, and that is a bit problematic, because you can only go into this as your last action of the duel base of the turn, basically, because you have to negate the first thing. And that would also be your card. It's not just your opponent, it's not one-sided. It's a bit annoying with that. So keep that in mind. And obviously, if you have any other good rank 8s like Hope Harbinger, this is the card you would prefer. Stuff that kind of works unless your opponent is playing the Link deck is the Sea Castrum, and for going second, you have the Drag Lubion, Hearth, whatever combo to either finish your opponent off or banish all their stuff, and there's some stuff that you can be doing, and that works. The classic budget lineup links is Proslomino, Geonator Transverser, Decode Talker, and Rasterliger. The budget heroes, but obviously, there's good cards, there's the Nightmares, there's Access Code Talker. I don't have to tell you what are good links, because everybody will be playing them, and you will have seen them before. So this is the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed the deck. Let me know if it works out for you. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a good day.